What's up, Spartans, to another video. In this video, we're going to talk about what will happen to Atreus at the end of God of War Ragnarok. We talk a lot about Kratos and his fate, but never about Atreus, who is essentially the driving force for this story, as Kratos believes this is his story. The channel has really increased in the past week, and it's because you hitting the like button. YouTube has been telling me that there's a lot more engagement, so they've been pushing the video out. If you can do that one more time for me, I really do appreciate it. Here are some of the correct answers in the last God of War video. I'm surprised so many people got it right because it was a super small detail, so congrats on those who were correct. This trivia question is, a certain character's voice can be heard at the end of God of War 3 while Kratos is in his own mind. At this point, the character's voice was never heard before, as his God of War game was not yet released. Who was this character? Type your answers now, and if you get it right, you have a chance of being in tomorrow's video. Let's get into this theory. Atreus is an awesome character in God of War. A figure that belongs to this world, but at the same time, he doesn't feel like it at all. Like his father, he doesn't exist on any of the murals or shrines throughout the game, except the end of the game, of course, and his name being on Angrboda's shrine, which is the first one you go past. Also, if you take the giant's message literally, it says, once the indestructible falls, the guardian will return. And once we kill Baldur, who is indestructible at first, the very next thing we do in the story is go to Jotunheim. I think because he doesn't exist on any murals or shrines implies he has a bigger role for this world. Remember, this is what Corey said about him affecting the weather as well.
And when you come out here, the world has changed. You know, the red storm, as we're calling it, which is the epicenter right over their house, is off in the distance, and you kind of have this weird, almost bluish gray haze everywhere. It's the world is reacting to this imbalance. The world is reacting to Loki being near death, right?
So what does this mean for the future of this character, who obviously has a bigger destiny here? I think Loki could be a replacement for the King of the Giants, or have a huge role to lead the remaining giants. Now, I said replacement for the king, but who was the original king? Here is the full story of Belgemir, said by Mimir.
If I'm not mistaken, we've yet to discuss the tale of the giant Bergelmir.
Oh yeah, I remember his run. It looked happier than the other ones, mostly.
It begins in an ocean of blood.
Finally, a story worth hearing.
If you remember, Ymir, the first giant, was fatally stabbed by Odin. It's in his blood our story starts. Ymir's magical guts poured out in a torrent so violent it threatened to flood all of creation. The Jotnar were unprepared, as the very last of them were washed away in the endless tide. Not just Ymir, but all of giant kind faced extinction. And so would Odin's victory have been complete. But Ymir's kind did not all perish that day. Staying afloat in the hollowed husk of a tree, the frost giant Bergelmir endured, as did his lady wife. For weeks they sailed, until finally they came upon a new land. They called it Jotunheim. And there they would start anew. As father and mother they would multiply exceedingly, and as king and queen they worked to make Jotunheim a land where giants would know no master but themselves. Bergelmir never sought revenge for Odin's slaughter. His vengeance was to live and prosper. He died at peace, a legion of his kin to mourn him. He would ever be known as Bergelmir the Beloved.
As we just heard, Belgemir was the first king and was swept up by Ymir's blood. Him and his wife found Jotunheim eventually, and he ruled with love, and he was loved by those he ruled over. He was king so long, he eventually died of old age, which Mimir says is extremely unlikely. I think Atreus, who goes by the name Loki, and Angrboda, we saw in the Ragnarok trailer, will rule over Jotunheim together in similar fashion Belgemir and his wife did. It's no secret I think Angrboda could serve as a potential love interest for Loki, and together they can create peace. Going back over to the Giants' message in Jotunheim, it says the Giants are waiting for someone to restore peace. They are also waiting for when gods turn good. Atreus is half god, who looks up to Tyr, who is a good god. Eventually, even Kratos would admit this. The term good god was used several times throughout God of War 2018. Kratos went from saying there are no good gods to receiving help from Freya, who is a god, to protect her, also trying to connect with Baldur on a personal level. I'm not saying that these are good gods, but Kratos eventually changed his perspective over time. Tyr is a good god, and that is who he is, and Atreus looks up to him. However, there is a little bit of an issue with this theory. Atreus is good, but he isn't exactly peaceful. I don't think he can become a king unless he deals with the few issues he has himself. Atreus is angry, he's mad, and honestly, it really feels like he's a bit bloodthirsty for the Aesir. In lore and legends, 1 year after the journey, there are several mentions of Atreus saying he can't wait for the day he meets another Asgardian. He also says that he wants them to suffer pain, and there are a couple of these little tidbits throughout lore and legend. Even in the Ragnarok trailer, Atreus is saying that he wants to go find Tyr. Kratos says, what if this causes a war? And Atreus does not care about the consequences. He just doesn't care. He wants to go out and do this, even if it causes a war. He even goes so far to tell Kratos to stop thinking like a father and start thinking like a general, implying that Atreus does want to go to war with the Aesir. This is the opposite of what Belgemir did. Belgemir's vengeance was living a peaceful life with his family, not causing more bloodshed. And there is no better character to help Atreus through this process than Kratos. Kratos' life story is a lesson to learn from. Kratos tore apart an entire world thinking of nothing but bloodshed and falling into vengeance and hate and destruction. After he destroyed Zeus, Kratos stared out into the world and stood there for a bit, until Athena arrived, looking at the destruction he caused. The next time we see him in God of War 2018, he is still the same Kratos, but is trying to find a better path for his son, to not end up like himself. If Atreus can overcome this anger and his need for vengeance like his father, then he has the potential to become a new king of the giants. But thanks for watching this video. That's all I pretty much have to say about that. The answer to the trivia question is Deimos. Did you know God of War 3 was released in March 2010, while Ghost of Sparta was released November 2010? Turns out the God of War 3 director included this line so when the prequel came out, it would make total sense story-wise. If you played God of War 3 originally back then, this line stands out as it's a very loud line, but you couldn't actually connect this line to any previous character from any of the God of War games until Ghost of Sparta. I swear, storytelling in these games is absolutely amazing and it's pretty inspiring. Anyways, that's it. Bye everyone.